Okay, that was a crazy chapter, I'm not gonna lie, and there are a lot of moments in this series that make you look back and say, holy shit, that was a crazy chapter. Oh my god, that was an earth-shattering revelation. And so One Piece chapter 1179, Advent of Nerona Emu, we've got confirmation that is Emu's name, is happening. We're going to see Imu in his full body form in all his wonder, and we're going to learn a lot more about his powers and abilities. So starting off with the chapter cover, we've got a wonderful little story of Ace, Yamato, and Otama in Wano. Essentially, we're making straw hats and feeding boar pigs. This is a very heartwarming chapter cover because, Ace died obviously tragically, and both Yamato and Otama were crushed by his death, so it's a nice little slice of life to see what their life would have been like if things had turned out differently. So Imu arrives and the Holy Land and telling them, hey, Gorosei, I'm leaving. I'm going out. And so the Gorosei's like, whoa, 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 you can't do that, sir. You cannot do that. You cannot leave the Holy Land. We need you here. We need you here to rule. And there's a reason why they don't want Imu to leave. And this will be revealed at the end of the chapter. But it's also because there's, the status symbol of the Celestial Dragon saying we can't have our leader at the top come down to deal with essentially the plebeians, the peasants, so to speak, to solve issues like this. So that's the first major concern. And so the Goro say, do you intend to go to Elbaf? You don't have to. We can send in somebody else, an admiral. And then in comes Garling. Now, Garling is new blood, even though he's over at least late 70s, early 80s. Most Celestial Dragons, and particularly the Gorosei, the ones who've been ruling with Saturn, are at least 200 years old. So he's new blood. Even though he's a lot old, he's new blood. He's going to charge in and be like, yo, I need to do this now. We need to take charge. We need to make action happen now. And so when he arrives, he's like, how can you be so calm in a crisis? With Shamrock returning, as we saw just before the Herald flashback, he says things should be calming down, but we're still trying to resolve the food crisis, and we're still going on with the ongoing supply issue. Now, mind you, even though Celestial Dragons are going through a famine, it's probably something along the lines of, instead of having like 7-course meals with desserts galore and shitting in a golden toilet, they're probably just having like 2 meals a day with some rice and salmon, and then for breakfast they're having oatmeal like a normal person would. But for them, that's pleasant food. Like, well, we can't eat like this. We need to have our 7-course meals. We are descendants of the gods. We need to have the 7-course meals. But because of the events that happened with the Revolutionary Army's raid destroying the food supply, they are basically going through a little bit of a famine. And listen, I want to give Garling credit for one thing and only one thing only, okay? He's a scuffed person. He's trash. We're not even going to defend Garling. He's garbage. He killed the mother of his children. He participates in genocides for sport. Like, Garling is just not a good person at all. He does call it the Gorosei because, hey, what kind of rulers are you if you can't even when you can rest when your people are starving? Like, what kind of ruler are you? Now, it's funny to me because, the Celestial Dragons have a very, oh, we're better than you, we're descendants of gods, like a god complex to the upteenth degree. Garling, even though he is a Celestial Dragon, he is a very high-ranking, who's kind of the God Knights for years. He's like, come on, you got to protect your people. What is this? These are your people. And so, my head canon is Imu was like, okay, so the Gorosei have gotten complacent. I need somebody new to make sure they're not getting on their asses and be like, yo, doing shit for me, okay? And so what Garling brings up is, hey, we need more military power. We need more control. We need to have more and more influence in the world to try to push through our power, all right? We need more might. We also need the former Marine headquarters, but before he keeps talking, he gets a call from a transponder snail, and it is a call I was waiting for. I was hoping. I wanted to see her suffer, and, granted, she's not in a dungeon, but she's still probably, not living it up like she hoped, is York. Quick recap, York had sold out Vegapunk and the other satellites on Egghead so the government could maintain control of the Mother Flame, and in exchange, York would A, not be killed for being a Vegapunk, and B, York would also be made a Celestial Dragon. Now, when that happened, I was like, there's no way in hell they are going to keep their word. There's no way in hell the Gorosei are going to honor their word. These people are notorious scammers and backstabbers, and they will welch and screw you over on any deal. So that was my first, thought process. Like, there's no way they're going to do that. But lo and behold, York is technically a Celestial Dragon, but it's not the way she thinks. So she gets a call from Garland. Garland's like, "Where's my food? You promised me a life of luxury and status. Instead, I'm sitting here in a basement working on the mother flame. What is this?" And Garland says, "Hey, look, I told you, we're going through a bit of a famine. All right, we're gonna have to work through this together. All right, and one thing we need to do is make sure the mother flame is working, okay? And that is contingent on your status. If you can't get the mother flame working, you will not be a celestial dragon anymore." And York's like, "Well, that's not what you promised me." He's like, "Figure a way to produce more energy, York. This is the job you sign up for." And so then he also brings up how York is also one of the Vegapunks, and so now she's gonna have to take responsibility for that. And so this is just delicious to me because York was a selfish person. Obviously, she's motivated by greed, and people motivated by greed aren't going to think logically or use their deductive reasoning skills and be like, let's see, I snitched on Vegapunk, and so they sent Cyberpol agents to try to kill us, including me. Maybe I can make a deal with these people. Maybe they won't screw me over. It'll be different with me. But again, York is based off greed. She's not rational. She's not thinking. So again, all of that doesn't matter. She's a selfish person, and she's getting exactly what she deserves. She's going to be a slave in all but name, which, hey, pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. There were no good intentions with York. She is a selfish person, and she deserves everything she gets. And so as they go cut back to the room of authority with the Gorosei, Garland brings up it's been nothing but disasters. And then you've got Walkery saying, "Hey, this is because of Nika, right? Joy Boy Nika has finally returned." Remember, the Gorosei have been hunting Nika's devil fruit for the better part of 800 years, all right? They have been wanting this thing, and every time they've gotten it, it slipped through their grasp. And now, for the first time in 800 years, Nika has returned proper. All right, Luffy has awakened the fruit, and now things are starting to pick up. Shit is hitting the fan, and now they're starting to reel from it. Like, okay, this is not a coincidence. This must have been inevitable. But then you've got another member of the Gorosei being like, "Hey, Lord Emo, you cannot leave. You have to stay here. We need you here. We need you here, okay? This is very important. All right, you cannot leave. All right, you can't leave Pangea Castle. All right, we'll dispatch an admiral from Navy headquarters, all right?" And then you got Ethan telling him, "Hey, Lord Emu, all right, I advise against that. All right, they're already far too occupied with everything else going on. We need the admirals and Navy power to keep a public face, because if they can't do their job, then we look even worse." All right, and then you've got, another one of the members, Gorosei Walkery, being like, no, we can go ourselves, Emo. We can go ourselves. And, my head was like, so let me get this straight. You couldn't handle Luffy and a bunch of giants in Gear 5 at Egghead, and now you want to fight Loki with a mythical Nidahogg fruit at Egghead. Yeah, that's not gonna go well. Like, you guys have no chance of winning this fight. Like, you're gonna get mollywopped. All right, you're gonna get crushed. And so Emu's like, "No, Walkery, this is no coincidence. Cast aside all lust, sloth, and pride at once." And when Emu said that, I was like, are the Gorosei based off the 7 deadly sins? Sloth, pride, lust, envy, greed, wrath. And so I was like, are they based off that? But no, they're probably not. The Gorosei are not based off the 7 deadly sins. So then Emu immediately says, everything was inevitable. This was always going to happen. And then you see just a cut flashbacks of Emu's last 50 years of life, essentially, with Rocks coming in 56 years ago saying, "Hey, I'll be back," during his first pirating outing when he basically killed an admiral, took King's hostage, and was like, "Yeah, I'm coming for you, Emu." And then you've got flashback to 24 years ago with Roger's execution saying, "Hey, you want my treasure? Go find it." Starting the Great Pirate Era, looking for Joy Boy's treasure, aka the One Piece. And then you see more flashback, as it seems it was Neptune's daughter. And this is basically Emu being aware of Shirahoshi, and that's pretty damning implications that Emu most likely knows Shirahoshi is the incarnation of the ancient weapon Poseidon, which I don't like that, because now it's going to be like, okay, now I have more reason to just wipe out the fishmen and take Shirahoshi as my slave. And then you've got another flashback to roughly about 12 years ago, when Shanks and his crew stole the Gomu Gomu no Mi, or the human fruit model Nika. There's that. And then you've got another memory of Harold saying, when Harold's death 14 years ago, being like, what is lurking on Elbaf when Harold died? Because Emu was like, I gave him my power. He was an ancient giant, a conqueror, and he was killed. Like, what happened? Like, what happened on Elbaf? What happened? And so now Emu is like starting to remember, okay, shit's hitting the fan. I have to do something, or this is going to get a lot worse. All right. And then this is about when Loki was being a pirate, and they're saying, hey, we've been investigating, and we found out that the captain of the ship that sailed through the fog, his name is Loki. He's Harold's son. And then you get a flashback to Marineford at Whitebeard's death and saying, why did Whitebeard protect him? Who is this guy? Monkey D. Luffy. And then asking about who Teach is. Who is this guy? Marshall D. Teach. And so now Emu has come to the realization, okay, Joy Boy has returned. Nika's Fruit has been awakened. All right. Poseidon has entered the play. People are looking for Joy Boy's treasure. There is now someone with the power to kill a god's knight with my power, with ancient giant blood from Elbaf. Okay. Now this new guy, this person that Whitebeard risked his life to protect, Monkey D. Luffy, and now this guy Teach, who they almost certainly know is Rox's son, is like making moves. Emu's like, okay, I have to do something or I'm going to lose everything. No, screw this, I have to act, okay? So, hey, I give Emu credit. He's basically being proactive for once in his life. And then you also have the most recent conversation he had with Cobra during the Egghead arc, during the interregnum, and he was like, what was that letter that Queen Lily had? And it was like, Nefertari D. Lily. And then Emu was just like so angry. He just wants to just yell and scream to the heavens and be like, Davy Jones, Joy Boy, you are dead. You guys died almost a millennia ago. Why are you still tormenting me? Why will you just not leave me the F alone? I am living my best life. Come on, my world is not complete. Why can't you just leave me alone? You guys lost. You're done. Your dreams are finished. Why are you still tormenting me? So from Emu's perspective, it's very much of, I need to do this now or I'm screwed. All right. And then he also says, retrieve Vivi. And so this gives me to think that Emu, as we learned, is a male. Probably still has a hard-on for Nefertari D. Lily, Vivi's ancestor. So take that for what you will. Emu maybe is a simp. Maybe. I don't know. We don't know what happened 800 years ago, but we'll find out. And Emu comes to the conclusion, screw it. It was all set in motion long ago. This has to be done, okay? I have to take action. Screw it. We're doing it now. And so from Emu's perspective, it's like, no, we need to do this because everything is happening in real time. Rox's appearance of the Davy clan, Roger starting the Great Pirate Era, Neptune's daughter, Whitebeard protecting Luffy, who would awaken Joy Boy's fruit, Teach, a member of the Davy clan, and all of this coupled with Loki and Harold. It's like, no. Everything is happening for a reason. We need to act now. This can't go on any further. We need to take a stand. And so the Gorosei are like, no, Great Emo, you can't leave. You need to stay here. You need to stay here. Please don't leave us. And so they're just like, nope, we got to go. And then Emo's like, hey, I'm leaving the Holy Land in your hands. But they're like, Great Emu, if you go to the surface realm, and it gets me thinking like, man, this must have been like, imagine you're these guys, you're the rulers of the world on behalf of Emu, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm leaving you in charge. If I see any holes or dents in the house, you know what the penalty is. Just ask Saturn, all right? They know what the penalty is for failure. So just imagine Emu leaves the house and be like, all right, Gorosei, your house hidden for me, all right? You have one job. Don't let it burn down. And it comes out as Scott, like, oh, Lord Emo, we're so sorry. I just can imagine them just like shitting themselves like, man, we're in a lot of pressure. And so they say, and then Garland's like, hey, we have no authority to stop this. He's the ruler of the world. So we got to let him do what he wants. And so they say, but the Great Emu, if you leave the castle, ... And there's, this is Walkery speaking. He's like, what happens if Emu leaves the castle? Well, the next few chat pages are going to explain why Emu can't leave the castle. And the rest of them, Ethan, they're all just like, Jupiter, they're all just like, you know what? Screw it. We can't question him, all right? It's his responsibility, all right? And he knows what the penalty is. We got to do it. We got to respect his wishes, all right? So, hey, give the Gorosei credit. They will shut up and follow orders, but at the same time, they will also tell people. So let's go. And they also say this phrase. It's interesting. No one can stop them. And that's interesting because when you look at Emo at the end of the chapter, oh, he's man, he's a guy. But this leads me to believe the theory of Emo being a collection of all the first 19 kings and queens in one body has some truth to it, because you see Emu's appearance and I'm like, was this some kind of like soul absorption shit? And why I bring up soul power is very important because we're going to see this real quick. And so you cut back to Elbaf, all right? Loki and Luffy had just creamed IMU's forces. They just took them out in a chapter, and they said, this is easy, we're done. And then you've got, Gerd running to Hyrule and Stance and being like, yo, check this out, all right? And so she shows them, one of the demons is trying to put himself back together. This is freaking, I can't believe they're actually showing this guy, all right? And they show, damn it, what's his name? I'm trying to forget his name. Garling. No, not Garling, not his name. Shit. Freaking, I forgot his name. Ethan. No, it's Dragon. He's got the thorn fruit. Summers. All right, they try showing Summers, and Summers is just like, no, don't do this. Don't make me into a joke, all right? And so they try showing his different body parts together, colliding like a magnet. Like when you were a little kid, you'd play with magnets, and you'd see how close you get before they could click, and they're screwing with him. And so Hiruden's first response is like, how the hell is he even alive? Like, he should be dead. Like, his ass should be dead. He should be dead, deader than dead. And he's like, man, you're a real freak. And then Summers is just like, you know what? Your name is Gerd? Okay, girl, you know what? Also, Summers is a sexist. In case you didn't know, he's a sexist. So don't feel too bad about this, because he's going to immediately call Gerd. He's like, you know, Gerd, I'll remember your name. I'll make sure you die a gruesome death. And then you also have somebody else bringing Summers' heart. Now, we saw in the last chapter that Summers had a metal heart. Like, I don't mean the metaphorical sense, oh, his heart was made out of metal. No. Physically, his heart was actually made out of gears and shit. He had a metal heart. And so you got Zoro sitting back like, maybe, just maybe, if we destroy it, he should die. And then Summers has just like the biggest like, reaction. He freaks out because he knows, like, oh yeah, if you destroy his heart like a vampire, he's dead. And so that's just hilarious, because Summers is a piece of shit person. He got off on kids being tortured and their parents. He slapped around Shaki during the flashback. He's not a good guy. Celestial Dragons are all scum, but Summers just hits a new level when it comes to depravity, all right? All right, and so then you cut back to the Walrus School. And so you got Frankie taking care of Usopp and Brook. Now, remember previous chapters ago, Usopp successfully, side note, Usopp rage baited Emu, telling him, hey, don't be a pussyfoot and, use your minion to possess people and take hostages. No. Come here and take Elbaf by force. Don't fuck around. Don't send your men. Use it by force. And so, hey, give Usopp credit. He rage baited the ruler of the world. So there's that. And so then you've got them telling them, hey, get in there, Brook and Usopp. Frankie's taking care of them. And Jinbei's like, hey, where's Chopper at? And they're looking for, because, Chopper was apparently the Forest God now, because he can now cure Domi reverses with a hard hit. But, hey, what game's the game, I'm not going to question it. And then you've got another member of the Celestial Dragons just sitting there, all tied up, with his head chopped off and his body parts severed. And it's just absolutely hilarious to see these guys, these massive threats, just sitting here being like, oh yeah, the Celestial Dragons, the gods, like, they're super powerful. And the Strides just shitting on them, being like, oh, we're gonna get you for this. You better say my name. And then they're just like, and Sonya's like, I forgot your name. What is it? Sonya's just like, what's your name? Ooh, and they're so rage baiting, you just love it. Gunko's still frozen in ice, so there's that. So maybe there's resolution for her and Brook. We'll see what happens. And then, got Loki arriving with Ragnar, Ratatoskr, and Luffy. And then, they just say, oh man, someone froze the school? Well, that's crazy. And then you've got someone saying, not quite. It's the thermal energy that was absorbed. So basically, when the school was being burned by the fires and all the knowledge, it wasn't frozen. All the thermal energy, basically all the heat, was absorbed out of it, and that's how it was frozen. So then Loki steps in and he's like, well, that sucks. All the school's lunch supplies are frozen, and he just eats some frozen food. Like, he's like, oh, I don't care, oh man, this food tastes bad. It tastes like a rock, ugh. And then, we've got Luffy in his old man form, and he said, we should give some to Usopp and the others. And then Loki's like, dude, just focus on yourself. You're shriveled up and old, all right? We need you to just stay in the game. All right? And Luffy asks, hey, Loki, that girl you froze, is she still alive? Are they dead? And Loki's response is like, no, they're not dead. All right. The way it works is I can't freeze anybody. It's Ratatoskr, Ragnir, my hammer that does it. All right. And I can't control if they get unthawed or not. Only he can do it. But they're not dead. They just got flash freezed. All right. And Ratatoskr gives out a squeak noise, like she's like, it's okay, right? She's not gonna die. Okay, that's good. And then you've got it's starting to rain, and you've got Zeus with his thundercloud pouring down rain over the Albath fire that was going on, that was trying to destroy all the books. Then you've got Nami in the background, like saying, "Wait, what's that?" And then you've got the reveal of this boom, just massive dark energy, like something out of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Part 1 anyway, and then you've got, or like something if Blackbeard had been using his darkness powers, and it just like a billow of smoke just rises, and not one, but 3 billows of smoke just rise up, just shoot up, like boom, up into the sky. And the giants are like, what the hell is that? What's that black smoke? It looks weird. And then they're all like, what is that in the sky? What's going on? And so they're all like understandably perturbed, like, okay, as crazy as things have been going on in Elbath, this has got to be their weirdest day. All right. And so then you see the, all right, pentagram, all right, the summoning circle emerging over Arst Castle, a magic circle, something straight out of Yu-Gi-Oh! Spellbinding trap card, all right? And then you see IMU, all right, summoning that circle to summon him here, all right? And everybody's saying, like, Nami shouts, hey, everybody come here, we gotta go. Frankie and Shanti just run to her. And remember when I mentioned that IMU may have had some kind of soul ability because they were a combination of all the first 19 rules of the world? That got me thinking, okay, is there some kind of soul power? Because what we see here, what happens to Elbath, is something straight out of Big Mom's Whole Cake Island, when she would activate her soul powers, and she would bring all these homies to life based off her soul or the people of Whole Cake Island and them paying the soul tax. Then all of a sudden, all of the buildings of Elbath start coming to life, and the people there are understandably freaking out. Like, what the hell is this? They're like, wait, what is this? And they all say like this, like just apocalyptic ring bells, and they say the Force are doing this too, and like, what's going on? So this leads me to believe this is some kind of like upgraded version of Big Mom's soul fruit, where you have the ability to just bring things to life without inanimate objects, without the use of any kind of soul. And if you give a piece of your soul to other people, that increases their power and gives them new abilities. Maybe that's how the gods' knights have their immortality, some kind of upgraded version of the soul fruit, because Big Mom, she can create, living homies, but she needs other people's souls, or if she's using her own soul, it makes them much stronger. That's how Napoleon, Zeus, Prometheus, and Hera are all into existence. She used her own soul, which is much stronger, to give these things life, and which made them more powerful. But no, this is not IMU doing any of that. This is just them appearing, being like do-do-do-do, and just the summoning circle being like, you see this and you're like, holy shit, is this the end of the world? Are we fucked? And then, bam, black lightning, black hockey just shoots out of the Arst Castle, and everybody just senses it. The kids are knocked out, foaming at the mouth, being like, and then Loki is sensing it. He's like, wait, it's coming from that castle. It's the same hockey from before. He puts 2 and 2 together. He's like, wait, hold on, I just sensed that. Oh shit. And so Luffy's in his old man form with his tongue sticking out. And then we got back to Arst Castle in the interior, in the throne room. And IMU is huffing. They're huffing. They're like they just ran a 12K marathon, like, and they're just like, okay, this is something I'm gonna assume this is the first time this has happened in 800 years, because from what we've seen with IMU can just possess members of the Gods' Knights or the Gorosei to appear, and because living in the Holy Land, for some reason, is very toxic to them, and this chapter explains it. So IMU pants, gets down on one hand, nose bleeding, all right, and then it's like immediately begins transforming, and then there's another explosion, wings start appearing, it's just like some metamorphosis shit, and IMU is just like, no, this needs to stop. I'm going there. I need to take control. Needs to end. So Emu immediately arrives and it's just like transforming. And then so you've got Dorian Bragi and Elder Yarur, like, what's going on? What is that? Who is that? And then the skies part, and then you see the rest of the buildings and trees in their demonic phase laughing, and then you've got the rest of the Gods Knights freaking out like, holy shit, Emu's here? Like, imagine if you're these guys. You were sent to conquer Elbaf on behalf of the world government, and you not only failed, got your asses kicked, and so your boss basically has to show up and bail you out and take control of the situation. Be like, okay, I didn't want to do this, but you guys clearly can't do your jobs. I have to enter, all right? And so they realize there's like someone on top of the castle spire. And the castle spire, on top of it, you see an immaculate, just like double color spread of Emu with the black ribbon flames, with a weird, like, jagged, sharp Naginata spear, and covered with the ribbon and hockey ribbon. And then it's Emu's design. Honestly, it is jarringly similar. It has some weird kind of eye tattoo. I'm going to keep referencing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's what I think of when I think of Spellbinding Circles. I think of Yu-Gi-Oh! The first one anyway. And then Emu has white hair and brown skin like a Lunarian, but has horns similar to an ancient giant, but they make an S. And you just see Emu just sitting there on top of the Arch Castle saying, World Government Creator, one of the first 20, ability, Devil Fruit. Doesn't say what it is, just says Devil Fruit. And then it just says, King of the World, Saint Nerona Emu. Break next week. And then the chapter ends with the editor's note saying, he descends. And so this got me thinking, like, holy shit, Emu has decided to appear. He got rage baited by Usopp. He's frustrated by his lackeys. He's terrified that Joy Boy and Davy Jones's wills are pushing up against him, and they're still messing with him 800 years later. And now he's just like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I didn't want to have to do this. I didn't want to have to get involved. But now I have to, because there's what else is the future? My dream, my perfect world is risk of crumbling away. I have to take action. And so, you know, I'd say this is the high water mark, but man, this is crazy. Like, we're like 50-ish chapters into Elbaf, so we'll see how this plays out. But man, I don't know how Luffy and these guys beat Emu, because remember, during God Valley, Roger, Garp, Rocks, Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, all basically laid out attacks to hit Emu. Now, Emu was possessing Cider, and so it obviously doesn't count, but still, Emu took that head on and it did nothing. So it makes me wonder what they can do to stop Emu. So hopefully we'll see next 2 weeks, but peace out. You guys have a wonderful day.